Welcome back, woodworkers, DIYers, to my wood shop. Today we got a project. And I got a question for you. Does your wife ever buy things she don't need
It's everywhere.
or you may not want?
I can see it.
Does it ever sit in your living room for years on end, waiting on something to happen with it? No? Oh. Alright, my wife neither. But I do have this lantern that has been sitting in my living room for quite a while. It has bears on it. My wife loves bears, so she wants me to figure out a way to hang it up and light it up. So that's what we're going to do today. I have this cedar back here that was not good for the project I bought it for, so I'm going to try to get that used up and out of my shop so it's not sitting there in the corner looking like crap anymore. So the best way to get this started is to grab that up and turn it into dimensional lumber. So here we go. You may be wondering what this beautiful cedar has to do with those puppy dogs in the beginning of the video. Well, that first puppy dog you seen, that's Bear. He's our newest addition to the house. And I didn't really want a puppy dog, but my wife and daughter did. So they convinced me to go buy this puppy dog. Dixie, on the other hand, she is a 13-year-old St. Bernard. Again, a puppy dog I didn't particularly want, but was talked into by my wife and daughter. What does that have to do with this cedar? Well, this lantern I did not particularly want. I didn't have a place to put it, wasn't sure what we were going to do with it, but my wife, like I said, loves bears. So we bought the lantern, as we have done with so many other decorations in our home. Now, I'm sure you have heard about how women multiply things. And I'm not just talking about headaches. No, I'm talking about houses. If you give a woman of a house, she will turn that house into a home with all kinds of decorations and, I don't know, whatever it is women put in homes. My wife has our home decorated in bears. I am just the tool she uses to complete her tasks. So that is what we are doing today. We have the lantern, have had it for a while, and she had sent me that picture that you had seen earlier. I'll put it up here again so you can see it. This is how she wants to hang that lantern. Now those lanterns are hung on some pretty rustic poles. They have just, it looks like they have just put some 4x4 posts onto a piece of wood and stuck a pole topper on it. Well, as being a woodworker, I want something a little more refined, because just sticking a pole on a plank is not exactly fine woodworking. And it's not really going to push my skills as much. See, there are several projects in my home that my wife has sent me pictures of that are fairly rustic like that one. And although she may be very happy with those rustic versions, obviously she's happy with them or she wouldn't send me the picture. They don't push my skill set and they're not very challenging. Now, not all of your woodworking projects have to be super challenging. Those posts in that picture, they look pretty cool. But, as I had mentioned, I want something to push my creativity and challenge me mentally. And that is where this base comes in, because I have never done a base like this before. This base has 5 pieces in it, and they are all mitered. Not only are they mitered, I wanted more than just a box for this post to set on. I wanted this base to look like it had feet. And the only way to make it look like that was to cut the notch out in the center. And I did that with a dado stack. I was able to get all of that material out, and it may have looked fine just being the notch. But I wanted to challenge myself, so we wanted to put a 45-degree angle on the edge of these feet, just to make it look a little bit more decorative. So I cut a block and used double-sided tape to attach the block to my notched side pieces. And I used a trim router to clean up all the edges. And I think it turned out pretty nice. The reason I'm putting 45s on everything is because I want my base and my post to have a seamless look. Now, I have done posts like this in the past, and they have come out very good. Now, my miters, I am getting a lot better at, but they are still not perfect. I will show you some tricks here shortly to make sure that you get a beautiful mitered edge on these posts and even on the base themselves. So I let this stuff dry up overnight. We got the post, we got the base, and we got this here block. Got a bunch of clamps on it. So I'm going to get this stuff out of tape, out of clamps, and then we'll hit the router again, I believe. So while I'm doing that, we'll just go ahead and jump to the router, I guess. No, really, to the router. Okay, so I know this isn't the router, but before I go to the router, there was something I wanted to do with this post. I had mentioned I had done posts like this in the past, and to do that, I have to add the post part at the top. Now, the post part is obviously square. So to get a post like these, I need to measure the distance. And I chose 4 inches from the top of the post and the bottom of the post to draw my lines on. Now, these posts that you're seeing in these pictures belong to my daughter's bedroom furniture. They're all done this way. Even her drawers were done this way. What I do is I measure a certain distance. It doesn't matter. Just pick a number, I guess, for your project. On this project, it's 4 inches. And then I will take those lines that I drew and line them up on a specific line on my router fence. And I will plunge into it and run it all the way to the other end of the post until I hit that line again that is also marked on my other side of the router fence. And this gives me a more decorative look on my posts. Referencing that picture again, you might be asking yourself, is this really necessary for a rustic project like this? Well, the answer would be no. But I like my stuff to look a little more finished than just the rustic thrown together projects that my wife sometimes sends me. Now, that kind of aggravates her, I think, sometimes, because she sends me these simple projects and then I turn them into these absolutely overblown pieces of fine furniture. Does she love them? Well, I would hope so, because I actually spend a lot of time trying to make these things look pretty good. Now, this here is one of the ways I fix my miters. Like I said, I'm not always perfect when I do a mitered edge. So what I will do is I will put glue in my gaps, and then I will use sandpaper while the glue is still wet, and that creates kind of like a filler, because you're putting that sawdust from your project into the holes. And then my miters that have not been rounded, I will use a large rounded screwdriver and kind of burnish the edges over. You hit it with a little bit of sandpaper, and then you don't see any of the gaps in your miters. They look fantastic usually. I mean, when I did my daughter's bed a while ago, I seen my brother actually come down and look for the gaps in those miters, and he was unable to find them. So I was pretty happy with that. Now on this base, we need to put a little bit of a profile on the edges to, again, make it a seamless looking mitered edge. And I think we're looking pretty good. I like the way it looks. Another question you may be asking yourself about a project like this is it a budget project? Well, it actually could be. You could go to your box store and you could buy some cedar fence pickets and you could make all of this stuff from cedar fence pickets. Now, I had already bought this cedar, so this is what I used. And for the cost of what I paid for all 5 of these cedar planks, well, I couldn't have bought one of these posts because these posts are actually fairly expensive. They range from anywhere from $150 to $300 to $400, depending on how tall or how big you get these posts. Now, I'm not willing to pay that kind of money for one of these posts, but I already have the machines in my shop and I already have the cedar in my shop. So this is actually a very budget-friendly build for a very refined piece that's going to look lovely in your home. If you are going to make these for sale, you could easily buy the planks and the 4x4 posts from the big box store. That would increase your efficiency, and even your overhead costs for the materials wouldn't be that high. Now, the 4x4 posts you buy at the box store are actually 3.5 by 3.5. And the fence post toppers that the box store sells fit those posts. My post, on the other hand, is actually 4 inches by 4 inches. So I had to take about a 1/4 inch off of all 4 sides so that my fence topper would fit correctly. After getting my topper figured out, now I could take those 3 pieces of laminated cedar from earlier and dial them in on the table saw. Once I got them dialed in, I took them over and I centered them on my base where I wanted them. I drew a line around the block, that way I knew where to drill all of my holes. The reason for drilling the holes now is so that when I flip it over, it's easier to find the location of the block. All I have to do is put some CA glue on my block now and stick it to my base. That way, when I flip it over, I'm not chasing the base and the block trying to keep it all steady. Everything remains where it's supposed to be. Now that I have it flipped over, I can pre-drill the block through those already drilled holes, and I should be able to run these screws in without splitting my block. I'm going to use 5 of these 2-inch panhead screws to secure the block to the base. 5 might be a little bit of overkill, but the pattern of just 4 didn't look right. I had to put 1 in the center. It just felt good. Now it's time for a test fit. We got to make sure everything fits exactly the way it should before I start the final sanding of this project. Yes, there's going to be sanding. I have to get the lines off the base that I drew because they stick out from the post just a little bit. While I sand this to 80 and 120 grit, I want to explain to you that a lot of the projects I do in my shop are for my wife and my daughters. Well, I guess a lot for my home, because I can't necessarily afford all the nice things that my wife and daughters want. But I can come out in my shop and I can build some very nice things for them that they appreciate greatly. And those are the things that I like to do in my shop. And I want to bring y'all along for the ride. That's why I started on YouTube, so that everybody can see all the nice things that I can build in this very small shop with a limited amount of tools. Keep in mind that when you're doing a project for your wife, you need to involve her. Give her choices. Now, I picked out two different hangers that I thought were going to work for this project very well. One was a very basic hanger, and the other one was, well, this one. And you could probably guess which one she picked. Yeah, this one. So after getting this one installed, I had to drill a hole right below it to run the lights through. That's right, this project is going to include lights. And that hole below it is the hole I'm going to run them through. The hole I'm going to run them through at the bottom is a natural hole that was in the cedar to start with. Now, I thought I was just going to be able to shove these lights and they were going to slide right up the pole and everything was going to be great. That was not the case. So I have seen electricians pull wire before, and they use some kind of tool that they tape to the wire and they pull it through the conduit. And, well, I don't have one of those tools. But what I do have is a roll of rebarb wire that you can find in your concrete section. I folded the tip of it over and taped my lights to that rebarb wire, and that allowed me to shove it up through my post. It worked very well. Once I got it shoved all the way through the post, then I had to figure out how to get it through that hole. So I pushed some wire through that hole, up through the top of the post, taped it to the lights, and I was able to pull it back through that hole. So I got some tintable stain here from the box store. And we are going to tint the top of this thing black because the pine does not exactly match the cedar. And my wife has ordered another topper that will sit on top of that one. It's decorative. And if it shows up before this video comes out, I will make sure to include it. If not, I will put it on an update of sorts. Yeah, we'll put it on an update. So we need to remove this and see how well this black stain's going to look. I've never used this kind before, so this is a first for me. It is very black. That is exactly what I was looking for. Very thick. It's not the gel stain like I've used in the past. It's water-based. I do like the way it applies better than the gel stain. Just so you know, that stain actually come out very well. It actually looked more like paint than stain. But while it's drying, let's go ahead and fasten this thing to the base permanently. Well, not permanently. I may want to remove it at some point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-drill, and I'm going to put a couple more of those 2-inch panhead screws into the back of the post to hold it to that block from earlier. And that should keep it secure for a very long time. And just like that, it's nice and dry. So we get to put it back on top. I am not going to glue this down because I may need to take it off to put that other topper on. But we are going to have to tap it down because it's a really snug fit. So I may not have to glue it at all. Well, y'all, that concludes this build. Stay tuned. Hit that subscribe button so you can see when that other topper comes in and when the other videos come out. Like I said, I build stuff like this for my home all the time, and I'm always in my shop. Come check out my shop builds. Come check out the builds for my house, for my wife. It's all great. All right. I will see y'all later. Have a good day. Get in the shop. Make something great. Bye, y'all.